video in the Jankowicz matter, it is dishonest enough to manipulate the video in this matter, and that is a good reason to withhold it.
Ranking Member Raskin, Ranking Member Nadler, Chairman Comer, and we're missing a chairman here. Mr. Jordan, I think, sent a substitute which is unfortunate because I would have liked to have asked Chairman Jordan about his noncompliance with the congressional subpoena, but I guess maybe he was too afraid to come or didn't want to have to deal with that question. I got to be honest with you. I mean, what the American people are sick of is how pathetic this House of Representatives have become. So let's just, I mean, this is a distraction from the fact that the Republican nominee for president is a convicted felon. That's what this is all about. Republicans have weaponized committee after committee to the point that it is doing great damage to this institution. Democrats, Republicans, and independents are looking at the way this House is being run, and they think it's pathetic. You know, we are here because Republicans are falsely claiming that the Attorney General is playing politics with the Justice Department. They are irresponsibly attacking the DOJ, making absurd claims that it is being weaponized. These contempt resolutions represent more of those attacks. My Republican friends have gone on and on about how Democrats have weaponized the DOJ, but their conspiracy theories crumbled this morning when Hunter Biden, the son of the president, was found guilty in a federal court on 3 gun-related charges. When Donald Trump was convicted, we saw an immediate reaction from Republican leaders. It was like within seconds that this trial is a sham, the judge is corrupt, the jury is rigged, and the contrast today is just staggering. Apparently, when a Republican is convicted, it's weaponization. But when a Democrat is convicted, the president's son no less, that's justice. I mean, give me a break. Hunter Biden was found guilty by a jury of his peers, just like Donald Trump, because this is our justice system at work. The divide here is stunning, and it's a great reminder that one political party remains committed to the rule of law and the other doesn't. It's that simple. Did Hunter Biden walk out of the courthouse this morning and slam the judge or the prosecutors? Did he claim some vast conspiracy to weaponize the legal system against him? No, he did not. In a statement on the verdict, President Biden said, and I quote, "I will accept the outcome of this case and will continue to respect the judicial process," end quote. Now I ask, after the verdict this morning, how can any Republican in their right mind argue that the Biden administration is weaponizing the DOJ to hurt Republicans and to help Democrats? They just convicted the president's own son, to say nothing of the fact that the Department of Justice is currently trying a Democratic senator and has indicted a Democratic member of this House. I mean, do Republicans still believe that President Biden is weaponizing the justice system? Because if he is, he's sure doing a lousy job. And as usual, the only Trump derangement syndrome going on around here is on the other side of the aisle. I mean, people are saying that Biden orchestrated the conviction of his own son in order to justify the criminal charges against Trump. That is how you think when you are in a cult. So here's the bottom line. Republicans just can't wrap their heads around the idea that their presidential candidate, your presumptive nominee, is a convicted felon. That is not the result of a sham process or some vast conspiracy by the Biden administration. That is the result of the truth. And these attacks on our justice system have to come to a stop. They are dangerous. They are irresponsible. They are nothing but false conspiracy theories being pushed to try and excuse the actions of the former president. And they are made even more absurd by the outcome of the trial this morning in Delaware. Mr. Raskin, for the record, can you contrast the president and the administration's compliance with this investigation with that of Mr. Jordan's noncompliance with the January 6th investigation?
Yes, will you allow me to comment on what you
Absolutely.
just said as well, Congressman McGovern? And I'm very grateful to you for pointing this out. Hunter Biden was just convicted of every single count that was brought against him by the U.S. Department of Justice. I've not heard a single Democrat anywhere in the country cry fraud, cry fixed, cry rigged, cry kangaroo court, or any of the many epithets that our colleagues have mobilized against the U.S. Department of Justice and our federal court system, despite the fact that Donald Trump was not even tried in federal court. That was at the state level. And they pretend to support state prosecutors and state judges. But then they attribute it to the federal government and they say rigged, fixed, kangaroo court, and so on. You don't hear a single peep out of any Democrat saying that. Why? We believe in the rule of law. We believe in the justice system and we stand by it. And you know what? Hunter Biden had every right and benefit that Donald Trump had. He had the right to a presumption of innocence. He had a right to counsel, which he exercised like Donald Trump did. He had a right to a jury of his peers, and he had a right to a unanimous verdict. And in both cases, a jury unanimously found against the defendant on all counts in both cases. And compare and contrast the difference in reaction between the Republicans and the Democrats. The Republicans are attacking our entire system of justice and the rule of law because they don't like the way that one case came out. Whereas the son of the President of the United States is prosecuted, and I don't hear a single Democrat crying foul. Now, both Hunter Biden and Donald Trump can afford themselves of every right of appeal that there is. And we stand by the appellate system. But I think that, it's just outrageous to see the way that our colleagues turn on the rule of law and the system of justice. And it's a profoundly dangerous thing that we witness. Now, you've asked me to contrast, Chairman McGovern, the cooperation and the compliance of Attorney General Garland and the Department of Justice with the non-cooperation of Jim Jordan with the January 6th Select Committee. Well, let's start with this. As I said before, we have gotten substantially and fully and materially everything that this committee has asked for from the Department of Justice and from the Biden administration. Again, that is a striking contrast with the Trump administration. I remember the day when President Trump, when he was in office, said there would be no cooperation with any committees or subcommittees in Congress. And they blocked investigations in more than 100 cases. And specifically with respect to impeachment, which is super dangerous, he did not allow people who were material witnesses, who had relevant factual testimony to render to the impeachment investigation in the first impeachment of Donald Trump to testify. He said they could not testify, and he just shut it down. I did not hear any of my colleagues have a problem with that. And now they're claiming, well, Merrick Garland has only cooperated 99.99% with our committee. We also want the audio tape. It's not enough for us that we can read every word verbatim that is in the transcript. That's not enough for them. They want the audio tape too. I mean, it's like a sick joke that they would go from standing by Donald Trump's horrific obstructionism of congressional power than to trying to hold the Attorney General of the United States in contempt. Now, as for our friend, Chairman Jordan, who I also wish were here today, he wasn't the only one, by the way. There were other members who were subpoenaed by the January 6th committee to give us whatever relevant material information they had about the violent insurrection against our government in order to force Mike Pence to step outside of his constitutional role and simply declare Donald Trump the president and hand him the keys to the presidency. So we didn't have a word of testimony from Scott Perry. We didn't have a word of testimony from Jim Jordan. We didn't have a word of testimony from Andy Biggs. We didn't have a word of testimony from Kevin McCarthy, and we didn't have a word of testimony from Mo Brooks, nor did we receive a single document from Scott Perry, nor did we receive a single document from Jim Jordan, nor did we receive a single document from Andy Biggs, nor did we receive a single document from Kevin McCarthy, nor did we receive a single document from Mo Brooks. So there you're talking about 100% non-compliance and obstruction. They want to hold the Attorney General of the United States of America in contempt for 99.99% compliance with what they're saying now and 100% compliance in reality for what it was that the committee asked for.
Yeah, well, I mean, I regret that Chairman Jordan didn't see fit to come and testify today, because I would have liked to have heard his answer to the same question. But I just want to point out for the record that Hunter Biden was found guilty by a jury of his peers in a case prosecuted by a U.S. attorney appointed by President Trump, presided over by a federal judge appointed by President Trump, and investigated by the FBI with the director appointed by President Trump. And you don't hear anybody here talking about complaining about weaponization. And I just, Mr. Chairman, just for the record, would like to read the statement from President Biden in relationship to the verdict today. I quote him, "As I said last week, I am the president, but I am also a dad. Jill and I love our son, and we are so proud of the man he is today. So many families who have had loved ones battle addiction understand the feeling of pride seeing someone you love come out the other side and be so strong and resilient in recovery. As I also said last week, I will accept the outcome of this case and will continue to respect the judicial process as Hunter considers an appeal. Jill and I will always be there for Hunter and the rest of our family with our love and support. Nothing will ever change that," end quote. I think the fact that we are here wasting our time on this garbage is pathetic. I really do. Mr. Raskin, you want to?
Well, you know, if you can engage me in a little thought experiment, what if one of President Trump's children were prosecuted by the U.S. Department of Justice? The entire Republican Party would be in an uproar, demanding that everybody be fired and that the investigation be quashed, especially if it related to exercise of Second Amendment rights. I've not heard any of them rise to the valiant defense of Hunter Biden's Second Amendment rights, but be that as it may, this is the rule of law, and Hunter Biden had every right that was afforded to him under the rule of law, just like Donald Trump did, and they were both convicted, and they both have the right to appeal, but we should all be standing by the rule of law and the court system, and I would love to hear one of my colleagues defend the discrepancy in their reaction to the Trump verdict and the Hunter Biden verdict, if they can.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I do want to correct the record. I think one Republican did come to the defense of Hunter Biden in a way. He's a member of this committee, but he's not here right now. That's Thomas Massey. He said Hunter Biden might deserve to be in jail for something, but purchasing a gun is not it. There are millions of marijuana users who own guns in this country, and none of them should be in jail for possessing a firearm against current laws. I don't agree with all that he is saying on that, but the point of the matter is,
well, look, I think complex questions may be raised on appeal in that case, in any case, and we've got to stand by the system of justice. This is why all of the ethical improprieties and transgressions taking place in the Supreme Court today are so alarming and demoralizing, because you've got, people, billionaire sugar daddies giving millions of dollars to Supreme Court justices, and it undermines everybody's confidence in the rule of law.
And no complaints about that, no concerns about that. I mean, and again, we see what we've been seeing all in this Congress. If Republicans are held accountable for anything, it's a weaponization of the judicial system. If Democrats are held accountable, well, that's justice under the law. I've never, ever seen such hypocrisy in my life. And the idea, again, that this is what we're spending our time on, with all that we have to deal with in this country and in the world right now, this is what they think is so important, to get an audio recording of something they already have the transcript of, that this is the world comes to an end if we don't do this. We have to hold the Attorney General in contempt. I mean, give me a break.
I mean, Mr. McGovern, this is an impeachment investigation, and so I have not heard a single colleague explain how there might be something of value to understanding whether there's a high crime and misdemeanor caught in that minuscule space between the written version and the audio version. Not a single one has suggested how a high crime or misdemeanor will emerge in Joe Biden clearing his throat. But I do believe that they might be able to find something with a cut and paste job to turn into a great political attack ad, and nobody has denied that that's the real motivation.
Yeah. This is not about high crimes or misdemeanors. This is really about a distraction from the fact that their nominee for president is a convicted felon, period. I thank you for your time. I yield back.
Chair, thank the gentleman. Gentleman yields back. Chair, recognize the gentleman from Pennsylvania for questions.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. I think that there's only one question that we have to deal with here, and that's one question only. Can the executive branch ignore a subpoena that's not only lawful but valid? That's the one question we're here to decide. Everything else is just a complete distraction. Chairman Comer, would you like to talk about that?
I mean, look, we are the congressional overseers of the executive branch. We have checks and balances in our system. That's the way it was set up. And we have requested these audio recordings. The reason that we stumbled upon President Biden's mishandling of classified documents throughout the Biden influence peddling investigation was there were emails on the laptop that we now know was 100% legitimate, because that was the major piece of evidence in the court case that Mr. McGovern cited a dozen times, it seemed like, in the last 30 minutes. There were emails on there that looked like they could potentially be classified documents. And the thing that the investigation has revealed is, with the tens of millions of dollars that the Bidens have taken in from our adversaries around the world, there was never a business purpose. You know, they say, the media will say, or the Democrats say, well, in Hunter Biden and Jim Biden, Joe Biden's business dealings. What business was it they were in? Because we haven't ever found a legitimate business. The business, according to at least two people who testified under oath, and that would be Bob Alinsky and Jason Galanis, was they were and three, counting Devin Archer, three former Biden associates said the business was selling the Biden brand. That is called influence peddling. Were the classified documents, were any of the classified documents used in the Biden influence peddling scheme? That's the question the Oversight Committee has with respect to the classified documents. And look, I think this is about transparency. Again, and I can't say this enough, it's not just the House Republicans requesting these documents. The Associated Press, CNN, ABC, CBS, NBC, Bloomberg, the Washington Post, that's their people. Their people want it too. The American people want it. Poll after poll shows the American people want transparency. So if there's nothing wrong with the tapes, then just disclose them.
Mr.
Well, hold on, Mr. Raz. I'm not, you know me, I'm not going to leave you hanging like that. If you want to, go ahead.
Well, but I just wanted to be certain that this constitutes the chairman's endorsement for every petition by the Washington Post and ABC and CBS and CNN to get information. For example, they were asking for all the information that Donald Trump was suppressing for several years and wouldn't give to Congress. Do you agree it should be released because the media wanted it?
What was the question, Mr. Raskin?
Well, I'll write it out for you.
Mr. Nadler.
I just want to point out that contrary to what the distinguished chairman said, the House Republicans didn't, quote, stumble on Biden documents.